Art One-on-One with Mr. Burgher.
Welcome to another episode of Art One-on-One. I'm Nichole Jordan, alongside your professional artist and master educator, Mr. Burgher.
Hi.
Hello.
Good morning.
It is.
From the beach.
Beautiful morning.
Well, the lake.
We're on a beach.
Well, it's a beach, but, I mean, the beach typically insinuates an ocean. But it is a Midwest beach, I guess.
Minnesota.
Yeah.
Minnesota Beach, where we've been almost for a week now.
Yeah. And so, we are on vacation, obviously. On location, obviously. Bringing you content in the middle of the morning, so God only knows how long this shit show is going to last before it goes completely off the rails. So
He's grumpy today, this morning.
Well, it's frustrating. I set this whole shebang up. I got a camera here, I got a camera there, I got a camera over there. But, okay, it's only a matter of time. Little kids wake up early. I got two little guys, gals. They wake up early. And it's going to be a minute until they're out here climbing the slides and doing the thing and playing in the beach and jumping in the water. And we can't hold up that show on account of this nonsense. And you got a half an hour or so of beautiful art content, all to be destroyed by a child in a bathing suit.
Or my kids coming out to go fishing, which
that could
happen.
That could happen.
But anyway, hopefully you'll get out of your mood.
We'll see.
We're still waking. I think I'm still waking up. But the first thing we do, obviously, is our Ask the Art Guides.
Yes. Ask the Art Guides is a segment that we have done every week, and this week will be no different. We will use the oracle cards that we are using from Lawrence King Publishing to help guide our conversation through the use of their oracle cards. And the card that you have selected this week is Pablo Picasso.
Pablo
Picasso. Now, on these particular cards, there are three different things. There's the life. There's the... What is it? The life?
The work and the inspiration?
The life, the work, and the inspiration. That's
this is the first week I've remembered them, and you have not.
I usually remember.
I know.
But, I'm on vacation, and I'm kind of pissy because we don't know how to set up in a timely manner.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to read, I'll read the different ones, and then we can decide what we want to talk about.
Okay.
So, if nothing else fails, be prolific.
Okay.
That's the first one. Choose, this is interesting, choose to have as many styles as you do lovers. Not sure I love that one. Make something worth impersonating.
Make something worth impersonating.
I'm going to let you choose today, because you would expect that I would know a lot about Pablo Picasso.
I would expect most people to know a lot about Pablo Picasso.
Well,
but if you've been following along with Art 101 with Mr. Burgher for any length of time, you know that I have made short videos, detail videos. I've made extended videos on a broad range of topics regarding Picasso. We've talked about... there's a video specifically on arguably his most famous work, Guernica. There's a painting on the women in his life, which refers to his
lovers.
Yes. And I've done videos specifically just on, Picasso himself. So
apparently he did have a lot of lovers.
He was
Was he married?
He was married twice. He was a misogynist who he got married and then had several ladies on the side. But he would not get divorced because he didn't want to lose his stuff in a divorce. So he basically didn't have to.
So like nowadays, I feel like the mothers get favored. Is that like back then in the day? Was that a thing too in divorces? Like,
I mean,
or was it more of a?
he had no interest in his children at any time by himself. He didn't have time for kids. He was making art, and so if he had custody of the children, it would have been worst case scenario. And he had no interest in having any form of custody.
But do you know that
you're a kid, you go with your mom. Get the hell out of here. Now the world is different now, thankfully.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm asking you. Was it different? Is how you split things up, the kids, because we've obviously both been through the shit show of divorce.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
do you know the answer to that?
I don't know.
Okay.
I would imagine that typically, then as is now, the courts found more favor in the female.
The importance of the child being
with their mom.
Their mom.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Although that's not always true, but generally speaking, I think that's. I mean,
I think it's changing gradually. I think it's changing because there are more stay-at-home dads. You being one of them for a while.
Yeah. Stay-at-home dad is one thing. Being taking on custody of a children after a separation is something completely different. Because you can be good enough to be a stay-at-home dad right now, but then you get a divorce and you're a no-good son of a gun who can't be trusted with anything. So, I'm not going down that slippery slope.
Okay.
Shit, this whole video could be used in a deposition against me, so we're not talking about that.
All right, so going back to the card, which one would you like to use? The life, the works, or the inspiration? You take a peek.
I think I'm going to go with the make something worth impersonating.
Okay.
I'm going to go with the inspiration.
Okay. Back to inspiration.
Back to inspiration. Make something worth impersonating. Picasso, one of his more famous quotes, and again, I'm paraphrasing the quote a little bit, is, if there's something to be stolen, I steal it. And Picasso did not truly develop Cubism. He's given credit for Cubism, but he didn't really do it. He stole that idea from George Braque, who developed it.
Okay.
Who developed by looking at Cézanne, the art from Africa, that was very geometric and very stylized in a certain sort of way. As it passed through Picasso, he had this uncanny ability to take an idea, twist it, morph it, and...
So he was the impersonator in this particular...
He was
instance that you're talking about.
I think that there are a lot of people that make knockoffs of Cubism. There are lots and lots of people that do this, right? Mm-hmm. There are lots of people that make their style after they impersonate him. But what they don't realize that he was taking his ideas and his influences from somebody else.
Got it.
And they were taking their ideas from to some degree from somebody else. Now, Cézanne was pretty original for his time. The native art of Africa, whether you're talking about the Yoruba or the, whatever group of people you want to talk about, they're all very distinct and unique. And I mean, which is true of any indigenous group, which is true of any older society, older than our contemporary society anyway, where their artworks were very unique, but kind of, they had, to some degree, there are some similarities, but each group had their own way of doing things.
So you think he didn't mind being impersonated or his art embellished or changed or whatever as much as
I think that if you want to rip, I think his opinion would have been, if you want to rip off a Picasso, go for it.
Isn't that the story? Weren't we talking about Picasso in the diner or the restaurant the other day, writing on a napkin? Was that Picasso you were talking about, or somebody else?
Writing on a napkin.
And the lady wanted to buy it. Did I dream this up? We were on the walk on vacation, and we were talking about. Oh my gosh, you don't remember this? And you were talking about Picasso drawing something on a napkin, and then the waitress asked if she could have it. Tell me this wasn't a dream.
I've never heard that story. You must be...
I must have been listening to it on a... I swear, we...
You must be swearing wrong.
Oh my gosh.
Never heard that story.
Well, it must have been something I listened to. And he said, sure, you can buy it for $30 million or whatever. And oh, it was on a podcast. Sorry. Okay, so it was on a podcast because he said...
Oh.
He said...
No.
I was thinking I was crazy there for a minute.
Good.
So, I mean, this is my recount of the story, right? And I don't have a great memory, but he basically said, sure, you can buy it for like $30 million or $30,000 or whatever. I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to it.
So what the hell's the point of telling the story about an artist you don't even know who the hell it is?
Because it's a good story. I'm pretty sure it's Picasso, but his point was, because she was like, it's not worth anything. You're just gonna throw it away. And he's like, no, this was like 30 years of my background and working and building art, drawing art, or whatever to get me to this point. So this is, even on a piece of paper, it's valuable because my time and my efforts and everything that's led up to this point. And he didn't. He pocketed it. He pocketed the napkin and walked away. I mean, which to me is kind of like a little bit of an arrogant asshole move, but at the same point,
at the same time,
I understand and respect what he's saying.
I mean, it's like, as a teacher, as a master educator, shut up, bird. I'm a master educator. As a master educator, I'm on the salary schedule a little bit differently than a first year teacher because experience is valuable and education is valuable. And,
no, I don't disagree. I can see it from both ways. Like, at first I was like, what an asshole. But then I'm like, but that is true. He's put in all that time and all that effort and all that to be able to say that.
Correct. Well, and again, I think that, I listen to a few podcasts.
Yeah.
And one of my favorites is called Click This Podcast with Kevin Nash. And on the Click This Podcast with Kevin Nash, he will often talk about going to signings where he's going to a convention or a show or whatever, and he's been in movies and he's done professional wrestling. He's a really good, he was a good collegiate basketball player, but I don't think anybody's getting his autograph because he was good at basketball for college, but because of these other things on his resume. At any rate, people go up to him and they see him. I mean, he's 6'10". He kind of stands out. And they say, hey, give me an autograph. I mean, he's not doing that for free. He's on an airplane away from his family so he can travel to go somewhere, to stay in a hotel, to sit there for a day, signing his name, taking the photo, signing his name, having a conversation, having those interactions with his fans and his people.
Yeah.
And so to see him in the airport or see him out to dinner, he's not just going to give you that signature for free.
Right.
And nor should he. No. Nor should he be expected or looked down upon or whatever because he's, somebody comes up to him in an airport and says, hey, I just saw you, give me your signature, give me something for free that you're going to charge somebody else $20 to get, and they have to go and do it, they have to pay for a ticket to get, of course not. No, you get your ticket, see me down at the convention center, and I'll sign your Funko Pop action figure or whatever, or your napkin,
All right.
Anyway,
Well,
you got to keep me. See, I went on this big tangent.
I know.
You got to wrangle me in sometimes.
That I just so you know, it was not a podcast. It was the book I was listening to called "The Art of Not Giving." I don't know if I can say the word on here, but you can bleep it out. The Art of Not Giving a Fuck is what the book is called. It's really good. It's really about like setting boundaries and things like that.
As a matter of fact, Kevin Nash talked about that book on his podcast. Yeah.
It's a really good book. I just like the kind of like maybe the humor and the brashness and the lessons. I'm probably about 3/4 of the way through it maybe, but that's what it was from. So I'm not crazy. I did hear it. It just was not from you. So
fair enough.
Okay. So moving on.
Good story even if it didn't come from me.
Even if it wasn't Picasso.
And it wasn't Picasso.
I think it was Picasso, but
you don't really know.
I'm pretty sure.
But we don't really know.
We'll just say it was.
Well, but
no one's gonna know.
Well,
the
author of the book, somebody else who knows, maybe Kevin Nash is watching this now. I doubt it.
Maybe.
But all the same, somebody's gonna know, and you can't say that. Oh yeah,
if you do know, post it down there, and I'll go back and listen.
It was Picasso, and when in fact it's some other dippy-doo artist that. Whatever. Let's move on.
All right, moving on. So, the video for the week this past week that we're focusing on.
Was it based on?
I was with you during this video.
Well, you were definitely there. You weren't. Were you in the video?
No, I was with you at the video. Is of the Nelson-Atkins Museum in Kansas City.
Yes, which is an awesome collection, and it's one of those things that I tell students so often. You can watch a video or you can look at these images in a book or reproductions or whatever, but really nothing beats going live, seeing the work in person, looking at the detail, using the best lens there is, your eyes, to be able to really get that. And
that was my first museum, which we've kind of talked
Your
about.
first museum?
First art museum that I've been to.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't?
We went to the Sioux City Art Center before that.
Okay, well,
which is
first,
art center. But,
yeah, okay.
But I will say that, it probably would have been.
Second, but for an actual,
like a big time museum,
yes.
Probably your first big.
The thing I found
museum.
most cool, the thing I loved about that museum was how it divided the different rooms into different time periods, because it really helped me to understand different forms of art.
Right. Well,
I thought that was so cool.
They do a really nice job of organizing. This is art from a time period, but also this is work from this part of the world. Here's what they're doing. So you kind of get a sense of the Lakota Sioux, or the whatever group you want to insert. I mean, it gives you a good sense of that. I do agree with that.
That was one of your favorite things, was the Indian headdress. Is that the proper word?
Well, I did not talk about the Native American.
Sorry.
What you'd call it? I think the technical term for it would be a bonnet.
You didn't talk about that?
I did not.
You showed it multiple times in the video.
I do have photos of it.
By that.
I do have photos of it. There's a different video that I took where I talk about one, but in this one I actually talked about a different indigenous group's mask.
And the mummy.
The mummies from Africa.
I'm just thinking about things you talked about.
But in that video, which is very representative of the Nelson-Atkins or any real major museum, and I would definitely put Nelson-Atkins in the category of major museum, but they've got a little bit of representation from a wide range of groups, some more than others. Like Minneapolis. Minneapolis has a really good group of Chinese works. Now, I don't know if that's because there's just a donor that was a collector of that, or if there's a larger population of Asian Americans in Minneapolis, or I don't know the rationale behind it, but they do have a great Chinese art collection. And the Nelson-Atkins has a pretty decent Chinese collection of Chinese artworks. And they also have a pretty good collection of art from Egypt and the Middle East and things like that.
That was a
and
cool.
They've got really good modern art. They've got some photography. They've got a sculpture garden. They've got a little bit of everything. And
is that what you tried to do in that video? Was just kind of capture?
Yeah, in the video, like the whole thing was, here's just a snapshot of what this museum is going to be about. And I could go back, and I said this in the video, I'm sure, I could go into that museum 100 times, 1,000 times, and every single time I could have a completely different product.
Right.
Because I could use a different, insert a different
you
image.
would see something that struck your eye.
For every single thing that was a little bit different.
Yeah. That is very true.
And that's the beauty of a really nice museum like that. You could go in there and talk about lots and lots and lots of pieces in a whole different way and experience the museum differently. And they have such a large collection in their own collection that they don't have everything out on display. Sometimes they only have a fraction of what they actually have out for the public.
Yes, remember the elevator, like the size of the elevator to move the different pieces?
Oh,
that was amazing.
Granted, there are some things, like there's a 50-foot tall Buddha. I'm pretty sure that fella's not moving. But, a painting or a relatively sized sculpture, things will go on loan, things will come in, things will go out, and they kind of...
The museum guard, that was one of your favorites and one of mine. I think for I know you're going to say for what type of work you're going to say specifically.
It's I would call it hyper-realism.
He looked very real. Like you had to take a second glance at it because you thought you're like, is he?
Well, and
like even his his skin and his facial features.
Yeah. And little known fact, the face is his uncle. He modeled the face from his uncle. He would take actual castings of actual people and make them as the characters in his different hyper-realistic sculptures. Minnesota native, Dwayne Henson. I've got some upcoming content on him, more upcoming content on him. So we will definitely be looking at Dwayne Henson more as we move forward. But
the sculptures, speaking of the sculptures, those were amazing outside. I mean,
the sculpture garden.
Who do we keep every time? Who was the guy? Who was the artist?
Henry Moore.
There were quite a few pieces from Henry Moore that were.
And I do not have any videos on Henry Moore.
You didn't put any in there?
No, I don't have any.
Oh, any videos that you've made?
Any current content on Henry Moore.
Okay. Do you remember what my favorite time frame was? I was surprised at what my favorite.
Your favorite time was the Gothic time period.
Yes, that's right.
Because we had just walked through the Renaissance time period, and they had the tombs, and they had the horse with the metal and the metal guy, suit of armor.
Yeah.
And we walked through that into this little area, and they had the Gothic sculptures and paintings and things, and you really were drawn to that. I don't know if it was the religious aspect of it, if it was the style, if it was the quality of the work, the style of the work, was not what it was during the Renaissance, or what it would be in the Renaissance. The art was not highly perfected. It wasn't Greek and Roman and highly skilled in that same way, but it definitely told a story. It definitely told oftentimes a religious story, which is what they were all about. So anyway.
Yeah. I think if you're wanting to experience different forms of art, different time period, that was a pretty cool experience walking through there.
And again, I think that most major areas across our country are going to have some form or fashion of an art museum, an art center.
What are the major ones? What are the? Do you know like the top 5? I mean, or just give me some.
Off the top of my head, I mean, you've got New York, Chicago, Kansas City, Los Angeles, and for a fifth, Seattle, maybe.
Are they all? Have you been to all of those?
No. I mean, if you're talking worldwide.
No, I was just.
I mean, just across the United States, that's where I would go. I mean, you can't talk about art without talking about the Tate in London. You can't talk about art without talking about the Louvre in France. You can't, or and again, there's hundreds and hundreds of art museums with every sort of, and some are very focused, where you have museums just on art from a very, time period or whatnot.
Specific time period, yeah.
Just like any museum, you can go to a museum that's just on one specific event or one specific time period or one specific group. Washington, D.C. has a great collection of museums, including and around the Smithsonian, but they have just a museum of airplanes and a Holocaust museum and a women's museum and an African American museum and a Native or Indigenous Peoples museum. They've got museums that are very focused on certain things, but they also have museums that are a little bit more broad, like the Portrait Museum, which is a little bit more broad.
So do all museums rotate their collections? Like
most, yeah. I mean, most have a private collection where they have things on display, but then things will come up, things will go down. For example, when I went to go watch ZZ Top in concert, okay, if they didn't come out with the fuzzy guitars and played Legs or Sharp Dressed Man or, like the greatest hits, it was like, oh my gosh, they're not even, they play some old stuff, they play some stuff off their current album, then they go back and they finish with some old stuff.
I got it.
If you're a big time band like the Rolling Stones, I doubt they play all of their major hits because how could you? That's all you do. You wouldn't play any of your new stuff. But again, a lot of it's kind of like that. You gotta leave your biggest hits out there for the people to see it, unless it's on loan. There will be rotating things or retrospectives of an artist that'll just be like a specific show, and usually it's, hey, like they'll barter, like I don't know exactly how they organize all of those things, but it's, hey, yeah, we'll let you borrow this if sometime you let us borrow that, and
really, that's interesting.
And it's, I mean, sharing is caring sometimes.
Yeah, you need to teach my kids that.
Unless you're playing Monopoly.
Or Risk.
Risk.
Oh my gosh.
Sharing is not caring.
Do not play board games with Mr. Burgher.
Why?
So competitive, so serious.
I like to follow the rules.
You are a rule follower.
Brooklyn,
oh my gosh.
Ask Brody. I mean,
and most of us other players are not. Like in Monopoly,
exactly, you cheat.
You could not. No, that's not cheating. In Monopoly,
it is cheating.
Like usually, if we give change to somebody in my family, like, okay, you owe me $16 rent. I'll just keep the $20. He's like, no,
you can't.
No, that is, what did you say? You can't donate or
you can't.
Give tips or money. That is not following the rules.
That is not the rules. You have to give the change back.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's actually in the rule book.
Okay, but do you know every rule? Probably.
In Monopoly, I mean, there are some house rules, like free parking.
You don't even know how much money to divvy out to people.
Free parking. I don't. I mean, I haven't played Monopoly in a long time, but like the free parking, some people play where you land on free parking, and that's it. Like there's no monetary bonus. Some people, they take all of their their fines and they put it in the middle, and you get the fine money if you land on free parking. That's a house rule. There are some rules that are house rules, and I'm okay with house rules. But you have to establish the house rules at the beginning. And if the rule book has a specific rule against it, then you can't do it.
We are very different in the rule following. I'm not like
if you
the extreme other end of that, but I do not. I'm kind of the rebel end of. You're the rule follower, and I'm the rebel part of. I think that's a strong part of my personality. Maybe why we butt heads sometimes.
Exactly. Like when I'm trying to set up for a podcast and everything's running and rolling. No, I'm going to get my cup.
How far are we into this? And we're still out here by ourselves. And it's all worked out. It's like divine timing. Just like the cards. It's all divine timing. Relax.
Excuse me.
Mr. Burgher needs to learn how to relax.
Mm-mm.
All right. Anything else we need to talk about this week?
Well,
it's so nice out here. I don't want to go in.
Did you do a flashback from the past video?
I didn't.
You rascal. You have one job, pod boss.
Flashback from the past.
It's got a name. Like that segment has a name.
Journey into the archives.
Journey into the archives. Journey into the archives. Where is our journey into the archives?
I will point out. I can talk about something because I did go back and watch a video of yours.
Oh, here we go.
Now I can't remember what it was titled.
I can't remember the title of it. I can't remember the artist. I can't remember when I watched it, but what I can tell you is this. And you'll tell me a story about a guy with a napkin.
Just give me a minute. So, the colors from white to gray, what is that called?
Spectrum.
No.
White and gray.
No, you did a video and you had it named a topic, and you were teaching about that topic. It wasn't spectrum. But you're like the different color, like
Are you
not
sure
white to gray.
Video?
It wasn't white to gray. Yes, it was your video.
Okay.
It wasn't white to gray. It was all the colors in between, and you had a picture of all the colors. Oh my gosh, fade.
Color wheel.
No, fade. No. You don't remember that?
I have no idea what you're talking about. This goes back to the original napkin story. No clue what you're talking about.
You don't remember the videos. You don't remember because I swear you said this was a specific chain of topics that you were covering to teach people about different aspects, different words, different points of art.
Are you talking about the elements of art?
Possibly.
Color, line, shape, texture, value.
Yes, value. It was value. Thank you. It was value. So it was a video on value. And so I'm wondering, it was value.
Okay.
Was I right?
That's a word.
Different colors of
value has nothing to do with color because color is its own thing. Value is a spectrum of black to white. It's dark.
Okay, so I was right. That's what I said in the beginning.
No, you didn't. You said white and gray.
Okay, so it was a video on value. And my question to you is, that's where I went back into the vault. It's one that I went back and watched. So did you do a series? Did you teach people for a while through Art 101? About different...
Absolutely. I use Art 101 in my classroom all the time. As a matter of fact, I have fellow art teachers that request if they can embed my content into their lesson plans and things like that all the time. Yes. I use it as a teaching tool. I know other art teachers that use it as a teaching tool. My son's college has used it as a teaching tool.
Well, I have not seen video. That was the first video I've ever seen where you actually take a topic, dive into it, and teach about it.
Well, with that particular series, I went into the what would be called the elements. I have another one that's on the principles of art. So those are in the archives, absolutely. Where I was talking about very specific art content that is a little bit more classroom art basics type content.
Okay. So, and you're not going to be doing that? Are you doing that anymore, or is that just a thing of the past?
It's not. No, it's not a thing of the past. It's just that, right now, I'm focusing on making videos about artists, but sometimes I make videos about artworks. Sometimes I make art about time periods or just kind of like a museum. It kind of, there's an ebb and flow to what I'm doing. And sometimes the focus is a little bit more over here or a little bit over there.
I'm just thinking, since you are a master educator, maybe you should throw some more educational things out there as far as...
And this past year, if you were watching along, I did a unit on isometric drawing where I taught a little bit of isometric drawing as a part of this. So that does happen.
There's your journey into the archives. I did actually do what I was supposed to do.
Kind of.
Yeah, I didn't remember the name of the video. So my what is it? My rating scale?
Oh yeah, what do we call that?
I don't know. You made up the
Nichole scale. Where does it fall on the Nichole scale?
This is a toughie because
1 to 5, I think, is what you were going to.
5? I thought we were doing 1 to 10.
Oh yeah, 1 to 10.
Yeah.
I don't know. You know your scale better.
So as far as like being, I mean, you got to realize I'm not like. I'm gonna give it a 5.
Holy Moses!
But this is my scale. Someone who is wanting to learn all the ins and outs of art or teach. That's a teacher.
By all means, you don't want to learn any of that crap.
I mean, I picked that video for a reason, obviously, because I wanted to learn. But
you didn't pick that for a reason.
It wasn't super.
It just so happened that that's the first one that popped in your head when I put you on the spot.
No, it was the first one that popped onto my YouTube channel when I went into it.
Okay.
So it was a 5. Like
5.
It wasn't like super.
Like, what was it about it that gives it a 5?
I don't know.
Well,
it's kind of boring.
Okay. Well, there you go. I mean, sometimes I'm going to get a 9. Sometimes I'm going to get a 5. So maybe I'll get a 1. Maybe you'll. I
told you the first one was going to be high standards.
You'll watch the first video that I ever made, and you'll be like, "What in the world is this?"
Yeah, you could not watch it. And from somebody else's perspective, that could definitely be an 8 or a 9 because they want that content that's interesting to them. It was a little bit interesting to me, but
it's a short video.
I'm more interested in learning about the history and the people and the feelings and the emotions and that's more in my wheelhouse.
Yeah. Well, every video has its. There's a squirrel over here knocking down branches, and so obviously
it's still quiet out here.
Obviously, we're distracted.
Yes, squirrel.
And you got the loons and the.
The loons are my favorite. Just listening to them in the mornings and at night makes me think about On Golden Pond. One of my favorite movies.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a classic.
Walter, we're trying to. Is it Walter that's the fish? We're trying to get
Walter.
My kids.
Walter's the old man, isn't
he? What's the fish?
I don't know. I haven't watched On Golden Pond in 20 years. I have no clue.
I swear the fish is called Walter that they're trying to catch.
I thought the old man's name was Walter.
Okay, we need to go back and watch.
What?
We went back and watched Bridges of Madison County the other day. Now we're going to have to go back and watch On Golden Pond.
Bridges of Madison County, now
On Golden
Pond. The greatest movie of 1982.
Well, that ties right back in with your throwback videos that we're diving into.
I guess.
All right, well, I think I'm going to stay out here on the beach, but we can wrap this up.
All right, fair enough. Obviously, you can find us, me, the Art 101 with Mr. Burgher content all over social media, and jump on there and check it out. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe, do all of those things that help the content get out there. I will say that I very much appreciate my national and international friends for doing that. It makes a huge difference. There's been a huge spike in the number of people that are watching and consuming the content. I don't know if it's because of the podcast. I don't know if it's because of
apparently
the volume of
my
stuff.
My ratings are not good. My five scale, according to the growth
what
of
are you
your...
talking about, the 5 scale?
I'm saying my representation or my values of your videos. Because if people are growing, people are watching.
Well,
then
that's an old video. That's from the archive. Maybe that's why it hadn't grown, because they were 5s. Now I'm starting to get into the good stuff.
We'll see what the next
Maybe I'm
journey into the archives
I
brings
don't
up.
know. I hope I'm not getting worse. But you never know.
Depends on what we're talking about.
We did start a podcast, so who knows?
All right. Well, thanks everyone for watching. We will see you next time.
Have a good day.
Night. Wherever they're watching from.
Whatever. Smartass.